8:15, and we will call this meeting to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to the approval of the agenda, we will be adding an executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss candidates seeking appointment.
Evaluation of candidates seeking appointments to the public office. That'll be probably 15 minutes in addition to already a lot of time.
Any other changes to the agenda?
I wonder if under old business, we should add board retreat sort of debrief and next steps. You sent that, or are you gonna do that in your general manager
Yes.
report? Okay, great. Then I don't have anything to add. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 9th, 2024, and approval of claims for April 23, 2024.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So we've changed the way we're doing the per diem approval. And so I just got these in here, for the per diems. And Atul, I'm just looking at yours and it looks like there were two, water resources meetings that were not on the list or authorized in the commission meeting, based on
That's correct.
Chris's review.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I think you deduct those, right?
That's what we did, yeah.
I reported it to the commission. I don't, it's not a issue. I mean, the procedures and we stick to what's on the list. It's fine with me.
Okay.
Maybe it would be helpful to send out our
But I'm really glad I was there, Frank.
sure, yeah.
Because
okay.
there, for two of those, there was no PUD representations.
Okay.
So just to be clear,
Um,
and there was relevant materials to the mid-sec adjudication.
okay. Perhaps we can have someone send out this form again, but also with a list. Because it says, what's on the list.
Mhm.
And a lot of us don't have that in front of us. So just so that we're clear when we're filling it out, that whether it is or isn't on the list. And perhaps we can have some sort of written, it's really difficult to remember what people ask. In the time, so can there be a written ask? So what I'm saying is if I do my report today and I'm like, I want to go to City Club, there should be some sort of written, like, we've approved that Atul is going to City Club, like he's writing out the things or I'm writing out the things.
Oh, you mean in the minutes?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
We can.
okay,
Because it is an action.
it
Anyway,
is,
we could-
yeah,
we
we
could
are
list it in action.
approving our fellow commissioners' time, and I don't remember.
And
With
we
their
actually
time
went
and-
back to the video and looked.
Okay,
That's
see,
how-
yeah,
That's less efficient than maybe a note though.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
I mean, the other approach would be for each of you, when you submit your claim, you submit a prospective sheet. Like, here's what I want to do, and then it'd be real easy to have the discussion.
okay,
I mean, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to formalize it,
Yeah.
that would probably be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And again, these are your rules.
Yeah, and
So-
I think I'd like to add water resources because I think it's a heck of a lot cheaper to have me mark it as a per diem than to have Steve.
Well, typically Bill Clark is there.
But
So, I mean,
Bill Clark doesn't represent Whatcom PUD.
he doesn't, but he does represent PUDs, and he's very, very good at that.
Does he send you an email afterwards?
Sometimes it depends on whether or not there's
Yeah,
something that
I'm
you
not-
don't know about.
I'm not gonna go, Bill Clark being a point of contact, and plus if having our two attorneys. Outside attorneys bill that time, that's a lot of money. Or having Steve bill that time, that's a lot of money. I'd much rather it be me. you know, because it's that the interface with ecology and their communication strategy is something that I'm completely capable of managing. We don't need, outside attorneys or inside consultants, which are both incredibly more expensive than my per diem.
We, just on that, I think Sarah Mack, when she attends some of those, the value is they're addressing the municipal water law often, or some of the foster fix, which relates to the work she's doing that'll affect us. And so it's important for her to track Recology's positions on those. And
Sure.
if they're getting two lawyers, we typically have had them no charge that time. I just reviewed a bill where we had them write Sarah's time off and attending a meeting because there was duplicate lawyers. So we try to evaluate when.
I'm fine with whatever the commission decides on that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't in this moment have an opinion, but I do think about whether or not, you know.
Yeah,
we need
let's
to-
leave it alone for now.
Yeah,
Frankly, with Ed be taking
Yeah.
over some additional responsibilities, I'm not gonna have any trouble using up.
I do
Yeah.
think that if we want to have somebody attend those, though, we should have a discussion to appoint who that representative would be.
Well, I would expect the next 6 months, the Water Resources Advisory Committees are for sure gonna have an adjudication update, probably for the next 6 years. But anyway, for sure for the next 6 months, and we should be monitoring.
Well,
So-
let's have a better discussion about that.
Right,
Yeah.
and if at a future time, maybe?
Well,
Okay.
we will be talking, I hope, about scheduling work sessions.
Yeah, okay.
We can table
Great
that
idea.
into a
Yeah,
work
yeah.
session.
Okay.
Okay. That said, do I have a motion for approving?
I'll make a
the
motion
consent?
to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we will move on to public comments. Does anyone have a comment to make in the room?
Oh, come on.
No, okay, anyone online? Any hands raised? You will get a second chance for public comment closer to the end of the meetings. We will move on to the general manager's report.
So the only thing I want to talk to you guys about today is the retreat. We just got the minutes back from Karina, I think yesterday. And so I'll be putting all that together and you know, you can see the results of that. The follow-up was we wanted to have a meeting to talk about strategy, I think was going to be the core of it. And before May 1st. And I sent out some dates and it looks like all three of you are eligible or available all 3 days. So that finding the date shouldn't be a problem. We got a, I also asked if we should have Karina there. And one of you was silent, one of you was, yeah, we should have her there. And then the third was, no, we don't necessarily need to have her there. I will say that, yeah, it was interesting. The one thing I found kind of persuasive for me, because I don't want to say indifferent, but I could argue both sides, was that if you have a professional facilitator there, then all three commissioners and myself could participate fully and not worry about functioning of the meeting. Because there's a facilitator who can kind of grease that through. So after reading that, you know, I would recommend that we see if Karina is available on one of those 3 days and use that as a determinant. And if you guys are okay with that, I will set it up in the next week and a half. And if we can't match up with Karina's schedule, it'll just be our normal commission and myself. If we can set up with Karina, she'll be there.
Yeah, and if it's possible for you to pick that day sooner rather than later, that'd be great, because, you know, we all have other competing demands.
It'll be as soon as we're out of here and I'm clear of the immediate stuff, then, you know, that's what I'll be doing.
What do we think about that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I need to look at, I told you that I could do the Friday. I don't know about the other days. I'll have to look at them a little
I'll
more.
go
Yeah,
back and
I
okay,
prefer Friday too.
yeah. It's harder for me with a
Let me
full-time
rephrase that.
JOB.
I don't recall that all three of you said you were available on all the days. I recall there was at least one where everybody was okay.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember what Karina said about what her times were that were available?
I can't remember.
Okay.
she did mention to me after the meeting, she generally is not booked on Fridays,
Oh, good.
just for whatever. So we'll find out. But I also,
This Friday, is that right?
Um,
Or-
Yes, that's what you're talking about.
is this
29th.
Friday?
We're talking about the
Yeah.
26th.
Well,
Yeah.
We don't have any more days to just do.
Yeah. And then the issue there is, tomorrow we'll have to, do public notice and all that stuff. So like I said, as soon as I get out of here and clear, we'll be working on that.
Anything else about the retreat? I feel like I have lots to say.
Well, now would be the time.
Okay, I mean, so I'm really excited that we talked about having a scheduled work session. So we can table discussions, you know, more robust discussions outside of the business meeting. And I just wonder if we want to set those up for a specific day every month. So for planning purposes,
We could do Fridays, like, kind of, maybe if that's a tough.
yeah. I mean, maybe it would be helpful for you to give us a number of days that would work for you also for
Well,
work
I
session.
think generally, I've held Fridays pretty much open, although lately Friday mornings have been getting booked, but
Yeah,
the Friday afternoons are almost always available on the
Yeah.
calendar.
okay, yeah, and Friday towards the end of the day is always better for me also because of work.
And then typically, I think of these work sessions as 2 hours.
Mhm.
If they've got to go longer, we can extend, but
2 hours.
typically, you know, after 90 minutes, I'm done. You can give me more information, I won't absorb it, and just bounce off, so.
You start hearing it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Well,
I'll
Friday.
just say, in my experience, 5 o'clock, Friday afternoon, you're heading into summer. You will not want to be.
Oh, you don't know that about me.
so the other thing I will observe is absolutely we can get these scheduled. And then it's a whole lot easier for staff to, you know, here's our suggestion of topics. And then you guys say, well, that's nice. We want to hear them in this order. We want these added. And,
Sure,
you know, we go through that. The May one, we may want to hold that date until after we have a temporary person in,
sure.
just so that then all three commissioners could see it. And I would just suggest that we hold the determination of that date until after we hear from John. But, you know, it'd be sometime after the 15th of May,
Okay,
be my suggestion. And we can pick a date. Then after that, yeah, if we have the same day every month, you know, then that works out real easy for the scheduling.
yeah, okay. The other thing I would like to entertain, but you know, we talked about holding meetings in different areas of the county. And I kind of like that idea, just to get people more engaged, you know, but I guess I don't know how that would work. We would rent a place, we would go to the library, like
So my suggestion there would be, for instance, Lyndon and Blaine both have conference rooms that they make available for public purposes. We hold
City
this. Yeah. The small cities meeting is always held in the City of Lyndon conference room at City
Okay.
Hall. So I could just reach out to Scott or the city administrator and see if they'd be willing to do that. Same with Blaine.
And the port was incredibly accommodating when
Yep.
we had the large geothermal meeting. And I think if it were like once a month, we had a meeting in their room. For, you know, a working session or whatever. I mean, I think they have Blaine Harbor has
Yeah.
some stuff and the port
Mhm.
does, so.
I think.
And then I don't know about Everson and Nooksack and
Ferndale.
Ferndale and his
Fer-
facilities.
Ferndale is very tight on space, I think.
Yeah.
well, we're in.
Everson
That's-
has a big city hall, they can host that.
Are you
Ferndale's trying to
Are you
do
pulling my
it,
leg or?
No, they do, they have a large space. I mean, I'm their attorney, so I mean, I've been there. They
Okay,
have a large space that they could easily, larger than this room.
okay.
Okay.
So we've got 3 meetings a month we're talking about, and you guys would like to schedule one of them out of area. Would you prefer to have the work session or a business session out of Ferndale?
We talked about work sessions, but I'm flexible.
Yeah, I'm flexible, so.
Let's keep thinking. it through.
Yeah, and maybe this is something that we shore up when we have a new person.
So this meeting that we were gonna do on strategy, do we want to do that on Zoom or do we want to do that in person?
My recommendation be in person.
Yeah.
It was
So
so
where should we do
productive.
that?
What's that?
Where should we do that? I'm thinking, let's do that in Bellingham, and the reasons I'm suggesting here. Because Commissioner Grant is leaving.
Mhm.
It'd be a good opportunity to do a little bit of outreach in her district. As well. Adjacent to or as part of the agenda.
And you're talking about this Friday, isn't it?
And it's awfully short notice.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fine.
Well, I was gonna default to try and get in the same facility we just were in.
Oh, like,
Yeah.
Or why not the port?
Close enough, we could look at the weather and go to Marine Park or something.
Yeah.
Marine Park, that's perfect. It's somewhere I can take my dog. Maybe a cow.
I'm totally fine bringing the cow and the dog. I'll bring chickens.
So on the extension, one of the topics that I really think we need to talk about is market structures and how that leads to an RTO and all of those interrelated things. Just to get that discussion started, I think we need a study session on that. My recommendation to this group would be that we do that for the June meeting. So we'll have telecom in May and markets in June.
Okay,
And
great.
yeah, it should be. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be kind of exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of change in our industry.
So do we want to stick with the broadband date? Did we pick a date for broadband retreat? Was it the 18th?
The 17th.
Do we want to stick with that? Sure.
Well, we haven't noticed yet, and we can notice anytime. So tentatively, I would recommend staying with that.
I blocked it on my calendar.
But if our temporary person isn't here by then, for whatever reason, then I would suggest either we have it and don't worry about that. And then pick up in June with the temporary person, or we move it a couple of days to get the temporary person in.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that there was a timeline where they would be in by May 17th. I saw, yeah, no.
Incredibly tight. Yeah, no, it's not.
No, without special meetings.
Even with special
Even
meetings,
with-
your
okay.
15 days would run out of
Then
17.
then we should cancel the broadband retreat.
Or we could push it a week.
Yeah. Yeah, not cancel it. I mean,
Let,
postpone.
let me look at my calendar before we set
Okay.
a date. I know that
Yeah.
I've got
And let's, go through John's discussion
Yeah.
and get you guys to commit to one timeline or the other, and then that helps solidify things.
great, thank you.
And then recognize that, we're going to appoint someone who's very good and very busy. And whatever date works for us may not work for them.
Right.
We just got to work through all that.
Maybe we should skip. Mhm.
Just going back to the board retreat, kind of debrief, and I mean, it sounds like hopefully we'll be meeting, this Friday. But I think there's kind of this expression of like a gem statement, like when a lot of people are talking about something and don't have totally, the same vision on things, but one thing sort of rises to the top, and that's like the gem of the conversation. And I think for me, the putting the P back in the PUD or making it an uppercase P, it was really to me the gem statement. I don't know if the rest of you would agree with that, but I think that when the four of us each shared our visions, they were different visions, but I think what was consistent was offering more services to more members of the public. And obviously having to react and adapt to market changes. But I guess I just wanted to offer that as the sort of gem statement from the 2 hours that we spent together. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just, I expected a lot more, or a lot less overlap on our visions. And if you take all four of them and kind of add them up, it was about an 80% overlap, which is remarkable. To get four people to offer opinions about what they think something will look like 25 years in the future, and then have that level of agreement is remarkable. I was just really, really struck by that.
yeah, that was remarkable. I agree. Good. Okay. Would you like to contribute?
No, I think that was great.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
All right,
For asking.
that concludes my report for today.
Okay. Thank you. We will move on to old business and start with a broadband update.
Mr. Anderson.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So we talked about the telecom workshop, so we'll get back to you on that. For the Point Roberts project, things are moving along. Our engineering firm is, they were out in field last week and again this week. And then we'll, timeline is about a month or so for them to get some draft deliverables back to us. Of course, that will inform our environmental and cultural and our bill of materials. So permitting and permitting will be the next phase once we have those designs back. And then we'll go out to bid for material procurement. So all that to say, we're still on track as of now to break ground later this year. So exciting. Keep you posted on that project. As you know, the state broadband office is moving forward with their challenge process that's open now until May 14th, I believe. There'll be a rebuttal phase, and then the state will issue the final determination in late June. So that will inform our project areas. We've talked a lot about how the state will identify the project areas in our community. I believe we have 11 draft project areas of today. So after the challenge process wraps up, the state will go back and finalize those project boundaries, and then we'll know all of the unserved and underserved in each project area. And the port and the PUD, through our steering committee, are starting to work together and divide and conquer, if you will, what project areas we want to tackle for upcoming broadband funding.
So there'll be independent applications, one for the port and one for the PUD?
As of now, yes, that's the plan.
Well, and we're not sure what the NOFO is gonna, it may very well be that the Port PUD, the steering team submits an application that has a proposal for each of the 11 areas built into it. That may be a requirement. We may have to submit a proposal that covers the entire county. And that's one way to read the preliminary information that came out from BEAD. And I would expect that if Comcast or someone else, Xfinity, went ahead and they wanted to have a proposal, that they'd have to cover the entire county. So that's kind of how I read the thing.
And could that be a way to deal with the two variations that we imagine going for in terms of applications in certain areas, seeing the benefit of a
Well, a hybrid
hybrid
application.
application?
Yeah, so
Maybe one
that's a
is
related
hybrid
but
and the
separate.
Okay.
Because it may require that we submit two proposals, a straight fiber to the home and a hybrid. And
Okay.
again, we gotta wait to see the NOFO.
Yeah, yeah,
It'll tell us what we can
Understood.
and can't do,
understood.
but we're trying to figure that out. And then we don't know what the bonding requirements are for the project, and we're gonna be in the process of
Are
figuring
all
that out.
commissioners aware of the conversation on the bonding requirements?
Kristen, I talked about it a little bit.
Jamie and I did on our one-on-one, but
Yeah.
essentially the NTIA requires that you post a bond for any construction contract. And those are not free. And if we have, for instance, on our, the way it looks, if we have 4 or 5 of these areas and we submit and it's $50 million, typically you got to have a performance bond that's about 10%. So you have $5 million performance bond, which would cost us, I don't know, $500,000 to create. We don't have it. So then it'd be, okay, do we go back and try and get it from EDI money from the county? What would be the rational source of funds for that? And then there'll be a question back to John and his group, can we even do that? And I know there are some states that do not allow performance bonds for public agencies or.
So that's probably something we should start looking at now.
We are, but we need to have a price first.
Yeah.
If it's a trivial amount.
But it wouldn't hurt
it's
to
much
know
about nothing.
what our boundaries are on that. whole
Yeah.
concept.
So the states that don't allow performance bonds, are they just gonna forego this NTIA?
That's what we're hearing,
funding?
yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 4 have said they've declined
Hmm.
to even pursue.
Okay.
And I can only speak of Kentucky, that's one of them.
Mhm.
It's barred in their constitution.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
you just, and it's to make local government operate more efficiently, not, because they got taxing authority, they're not going anywhere. It's not like a construction outfit that's gonna declare bankruptcy and close that LLC and open up another one over here. We're an agency of government.
In a way, it's, sorry,
I was gonna say, the question here is gonna be whether that's considered a lending credit, which is barred by our state constitution. I can. If you pledged your assets, that would be lending credit. I would think, if you're buying a performance bond without having to secure anything more other than the purchase price of the bond. That's probably the word, but I want to take some time to look at it.
But then you end up having to buy the bond.
Yes, that's,
And
that's. the
You've got
cost
to have
issue.
the cash, and that's the problem.
Okay, so I'm concerned about this. The state has put aside matching money.
They have, yes.
Could that matching money be used for meeting this requirement?
My understanding is no. But we haven't worked that through WISBO yet, and we haven't seen what the NOFO says. The NOFO may very well say use matching funds for it out of the state. You know, we don't know. I doubt it. I think that the issue there is going to be, you know, a lot of these matching funds are not used for certain permitting activities and pre-construction activities and things like that. They're excluded. So I don't know how it's going to turn out. So yes, first thing is we're getting the final agreement with the port on who does what. That allows us to price the thing out. And then we take it to John, get an opinion. And then, you know, we look at, okay, we can do it. Here's the workaround. Here's the cost. And then bring that back. And then, you know, how do we achieve that? So you're seeing sausage half made right now.
And I realize the NOFO hasn't dropped and all of that, but I guess, just wondering if we touch base with some of our sister PUDs about how they're gonna approach the bonding issue and whether we can learn anything from each other.
The first, there was a kickoff meeting of that BEAD consortium with NOAANET, and I was gone for that first meeting, but the next meeting is next week, Monday.
Okay.
And there's teams that are being developed, or committees that are being developed under that agreement to hash out each of these requirements.
Bonding
Yeah.
team.
More in the financial requirements, it will include the bonding conversation.
Okay.
So yes, we are engaged with the other PODs.
And that being said, my understanding is that there are a number of counties that have already said they're not going to participate because of the NTIA bonding requirement
In Washington State.
in Washington State.
Any close to us?
You know, I don't recall. I heard it was either 4 or 5 counties said that they're not going to do it. But I didn't get a lot of detail on it. So I don't know if it was just, you know, these people are popping off and they're angry about it, or whether they said, you know, we've studied this and it doesn't make sense for us and we're pushing back on the table. I don't know what the exact read on that is. The other thing is people do things for reasons that wouldn't necessarily apply here. And I want to find out if it's possible for us to do it and then desirable and then make the recommendation. So one other thing, if I can go back to the Point Roberts. Andrew's had a lot of fun finding an archaeologist. And it's been really interesting. The people that we normally think of for these projects were full up. And then a simple reach out to the county and the city, and all of a sudden there's 10 or 12 organizations that have said, oh yeah, we'll do this for you. And kind of exciting. They seem very professional, and it should be quite helpful. So apparently Point Roberts is completely covered with all kinds of artifacts and mid heaps
Yes.
and graveyards and who knows what.
Mhm.
So good news is 90% of ours is overhead. We're not digging much ditch, which is where everybody runs into trouble.
And under our, if I just may add, our funding source was both, since it's federally funded, it requires the professional archaeological site monitoring plan. So that's the reason for reaching out to the firms. That's all I have. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. So moving on to adjudication.
Okay, so you may have seen this card in the mail. It's arrived, whether you're on public water, public utility water, this public utility, but I mean city water or not. Even in the mail to me yesterday, I heard a number of other people received it. I think there's a mass mailing that we want to all property owners in Whatcom County. I'm assuming the college you got this at our address from the county assessor's website. We do not have a well. We don't have a surface water appropriation. We get our water from the city of Bellingham. So but this is the college's efforts to notify everybody in the county about the adjudication. Certainly.
We got ours last night too.
And contextually, why this is relevant for apology in a litigation context is they'll submit an affidavit to the court. If someone disputes whether they ever received service, they'll say, well, we notified everybody of the pending adjudication before we filed by this postcode. And that's all well and good. But someone might say, I didn't get notice, I didn't get a copy of the petition, you didn't send it to the right address. So while ecology on the one hand was saying, we're doing this massive education, we're sending it all out there as a lawyer, litigator, I'm saying there's really service of process litigation tactic that why this is sent out. Although it does have it is massive mailing and education. There's a litigation purpose behind it. That's going on there. We've had our rules meeting again this past week. I'm not hopeful that there'll be a large consensus coming out of that. It's clear the court's doing their own rules behind their curtain, and have only passing contact with the parties that'll be involved in the litigation. Their focus seems to be largely on the addressing the small users, which is fine. But the litigation and delay circumstances will be from the parties that have a lot of interest, economic interest, and a lawyer up already. And there's a number of groups out there like ecology is supposed to file by the end of the month. So the way the filing works, and I think I've relayed this before, is one, as a lawyer, I have the right, or the authority, I should say, to sign a summons and start a lawsuit. In the context of an adjudication, that's different. The ecology can file it, then the court orders the issuance of a summons. So typically I sign a summons, sign a complaint, and we send it off to service processor, and they serve Mike Murphy or whomever, and they start a lawsuit. And
Or Mike,
poor Mike.
he came here for a meeting.
Yeah, he's picked up.
And he's getting sued.
You're getting sued.
And so the court's going to issue the order of the summons. What doesn't sound like that's going to happen probably until June. And then ecology has indicated it'll take 6 to 8 weeks for them to do the mailing to everybody of the petition for adjudication. So it'll be filed, but key dates that start processes won't happen until August. Most. And then once it's served, so after they mail it, it's served, then it'll be roughly a year before the claim forms that we've talked about in the past have to be submitted to ecology in the court with evidence, with the assertion of what the scope of the claim of a water right is. There'll be 3 years after that date that the evidence is to be submitted. So time marches. Yes, that's the next adjudication. I just, as a reminder, I had someone yesterday, I was meeting somebody on adjudication and this is a statewide lawyer, and he had been involved in the adjudication in Yakima. He said, people need to remember that Aqua Vello was 40 years. It was only surface water. The municipalities did not have issues with their water right, and they all settled. We never had an issue. It was vastly different. And this is the second large basin adjudication the state has ever done. Yakima being first, and materially and significantly different. So this is really the first time the state's ever doing adjudication of this magnitude. So there are going to be slip-ups and delays processes.
So by the end of the month, I have so much anxiety.
End of the month, they're gonna file it with the
Yeah.
court.
Are they
Right.
calling this the start?
No,
Just check.
that's just a public outreach notification piece to everybody that it's coming, and this is how you get more information. Multiple languages, and trying to disseminate knowledge, and again. The cynic in me says what will happen is that if someone claims they weren't aware, they can say, well, we sent everything to your address, we use the assessor's website. For all the property ownerships in the county,
I don't think they did that.
I'm not sure, I'm just
Well,
speculating.
the notice we got was for the prior owners of the home. And that's been 2.5 years. And I know that they're not 2.5 years behind on the assessor's website because we pay the taxes.
Maybe they had an old database, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating.
It's so interesting they sent it to Bellingham.
And Linden.
What? Yeah, I mean, Bellingham's not part of the adjudication though, right?
Well, the city of Bellingham's water rights are,
Oh,
Yeah, and the
city's
city
a-
of Linden's as well.
But-
But as a user of water, in
Right,
Linden, I've
you're
got no standing in this
Sure.
case.
Maybe they feel like it's just outreach is outreach and you might tell your neighbor,
Yeah.
tell their
and I'm a cynic.
friend,
so-
yeah.
Or just start asking questions like,
Mhm.
what is this?
Mhm.
And, go to the website, and do a little research.
I'm a cynic too. It's a lot of money to spend on mailers. A lot of money.
Yeah. So a couple things on adjudication, John, if I may. So first thing is the initial or the second draft of municipal water law dropped this week.
Yesterday,
And John forwarded it out to me anyway. And I've done a quick read of it, and it seems like all the things we were most concerned about are now worse. There's a new definition of good standing inchoate rights, which never existed before. So it was essentially, it looked like a way to say, okay, if you haven't used your inchoate rights within 5 years, they're not in good standing and therefore subject to relinquishment, which is counter to the legislation that created municipal water law. So I looked at it and it's like, well, okay, they changed some of the wording, but it appears to be a step back. And I really will wait to hear, John, anything out of your group and maybe something from Bill Clark on it, because they do a lot of analysis on that for Wapouta. And
What's our turnaround time for response?
it came out yesterday, let me pull it up, I'm just.
usually 60 or 90 days for comment.
We have plenty of time then. Will there be appropriate for, I guess the
June
water,
21st.
when is there's a water committee meeting between now and then, I think, right? There's a,
The Wyra
What?
One Board?
no, there's a put a water workshop.
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
there?
Well,
we-
the RAC meets, and they'll be talking about this.
Well, I'm talking about, RAC isn't a place for us to talk. I'm talking about a place for.
The
for
Waputa quarterly meeting
Waputa.
just happened.
The water meeting?
Yeah.
Did they talk about this?
I did not attend.
I did, and I don't remember talking.
Yeah, right. I remember
Yeah,
it being,
yeah.
we talked about how exceptionally boring
Yeah,
it was going to
yeah, it
be, yeah.
was mostly residential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if this had dropped, they would have
Mm-hmm.
discussed it, but I'm almost wondering if Wapouta needs a special meeting between now and June, if there isn't one scheduled, I don't.
Well, I can ping John. He's the head of the water committee for the GMs and he's on the RAC and he's
Yeah,
the GM from Thurston, very involved. Good
I-
guy.
I think we need a Wapouta conversation and we may have one. If someone can check the calendar to see if we have one, but we need a Wapouta meeting before our comment period is over for this municipal water law change. And we probably will want to write a letter again. Because the previous letters have been so effective in changing policy at the Department of Ecology. So now that we know that we're so effective in influencing the Department of Ecology, we should keep at it.
So I would just caution you guys, I am not an attorney and my read on the document may be less than charitable, just because I'm not inclined to believe ecology. And they say it's much better now.
The first thing you don't, when you think about Department of Ecology, is you don't think of charity immediately?
I do not.
No, okay, all right.
Not first thing, not
Okay.
top of mind. So I will check with Liz. We'll figure it out. Remember, we're pushing on a string there. If Liz doesn't want to have the meeting, Wapouta won't have it.
Chair, I have one update on adjudication.
Well, I've got one more.
Okay.
And this is John, news on at the small cities meeting on Tuesday, last Tuesday, I guess now. Sat Paul was there and he made the announcement that they're going to be hiring the fifth Superior Court judge. And I'm going to try and quote this. That will be very helpful in reducing our civil and criminal backlog. Oh, and they'll be available for the adjudication. That's what Sat Paul said.
Is that what the law says?
I don't know what the law says.
The law does not subscribe this judge to be solely a water judge. It was a rationale for getting the fifth judge was the pending adjudication. My complaint to court, is the county, was that they were already subscribing this person to general litigation matters, that the adjudication was not going to be started in earnest with anything to do for a year to 4 years. So by that time, that person would fully integrated into the milieu of cases, and to separate a judge to dedicate at that point would be near impossible. And so this is creating a administrative fiction.
So can we pursue this a little bit now? You think it's okay to do this?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, so I see a wedge of increasing caseload related to water, for sure. Or increasing over time. I know it's wrong ethically and legally to lobby a judge on a particular case. But how does one lobby a judge for bandwidth?
It is difficult because I have tried to have this discussion with the judges, and they said, well, no, that's ex parte communication. Ex parte meaning a communication outside of a pending case. And I said, Your Honor, there's no pending case. They haven't filed it. And this is back last fall and summer. So they're not going to file a case for 7-8 months. There is no pending case. Plus, I'm talking about process, not the substance of the case. And I'm talking about the alignment with court administration. So none of these issues are barred by the judicial canon of ethics. Wouldn't engage in discussions. And so I had that same conversation with the administration of the courts, Shannon Hinchcliffe. Yep. Thank you. Yep. We're trying to work this so that they have rules that are dedicated. So we're trying to build into these rules that there will be a judge assigned to be a water judge, and the other layer of complexity or frustration or bandwidth, how you want to approach it, is that they are hiring a new commissioner. So Superior Court judges also have commissioners. Commissioners are appointed, and they typically handle smaller cases. They might handle a guardian ad litem petition, a temporary restraining order, things that come up on an emergent basis. So the water code allows the use of commissioners as well as referees. And so the court rules are clearly being designed to give a lot of the authority to handle these cases to a court commissioner or a referee. And it's like, well, then why did you have a fifth judge? If all you're going to do, and they've already pre-identified somebody they want to has the water right commission. And so why are you doing this? If you already have this, why do you need a fifth judge? If you're going to be using commissioners and referees to process everything. And then from a lawyer standpoint, you go, I think a lot of people in the community are want a judge to decide there's someone they've elected, not just an appointee by Superior Court judges. And so how's our process to have any of their decisions reviewed by the judge? And legal decisions, and we want a judge who's had experience in training theory on the matters. So yeah, these are all issues that have been discussed. When I give our updates here, I don't always get to this level of the weeds, but we've been looking at this and expressing frustration. But it is not a surprise that Whatcom County is taking this opportunity, just like they're using this opportunity to instigate an e-service, an electronic filing, electronic service system that they have been way behind on adopting. They're using the funds to do this. So there's opportunities.
So, yeah, I mean, I respect the challenges that the county is dealing with on other fronts. It's important for everyone to carry their own water. Meaning that the people who are working on housing and homelessness and fentanyl and all of that, they're doing good work, but they have plenty of sway at the state and federal level to support their causes. And we pursued this, we initiated this. So it's not appropriate for them to be opportunistic with something that we know is going to easily be a second priority. We know that, that's why we pursue this in the first place. So I think it's important for us to be clear at every level. And I'm glad you're talking to the court. And I think we need to talk to the executive. Make this point clear that we support, obviously, them what they're doing on social issues, but this needs to be protected. And if we can't protect it now, in 4 years, when everybody's forgotten.
That's the
It'll be
frustration.
very
I've had
hard.
this extensive conversation with the Lemmy Council, and I would say that they are in line.
Well, that's great to hear.
It sounds like we need a sixth judge. We need to, I
We
mean.
need a
frankly,
water judge.
Yeah.
We need a water, it
Yeah.
feels really dishonest that I think people thought that that's what we were getting. You know, that's.
Yeah,
how
a
it's
legislator-
positive, Yeah.
Yes,
That's what the
that-
government-
Yeah.
that in the, and understandably, they would say, well, what's this judge gonna do for 3 years? You know, before the case gets going, then, okay, but you gotta have a process for dedicating this time
Right.
and reserving it, and then you're gonna have a overflow then in 3 years. You're contributing to the creation or enhancement of the problem by creating a position, and then you're gonna pull that position away. in 3 years. And I would say just as you also have to I'm not legitimizing what the county or other courts are doing. There is a backlog. I can't tell you how many cases, just on summary judgment motions, the judges kick over, and don't issue written decisions. They don't handily do the work. And maybe this because they're overburdened, but it means they're giving great brevity to the review of the cases, if that's the case. So there is a lot in the pipeline, whether it's criminal cases or civil cases. I know of cases that have taken 6 months to get a decision after the hearing. You know, so it's a problem on the court side for processing the amount of volume that's going in there, and this is going to exponentially expand. So they had to get the fifth judge. It's not surprising they're trying to utilize that time because of their burden, but that doesn't legitimize the opportunism to take the time and what the impact may be on the adjudication.
So we just need to frequently remind them
Yeah.
that they got that fifth judge because.
And the question's going to be, and there's a lot of unknown questions because we don't know what the court or even ecology is going to propose in the context of, are we going to have a separate pathway for the exempt wells? I could see trying to reduce the caseload by saying, we're going to hire 5 referees, a bunch of lawyers, or others to go just look at these claims raised by the individual well owners and let the referees make decisions, make reports. They go to the judge and the judge reads the reports and approves them. I mean, that could be the process to try to move out a large volume of these cases where there aren't objections. So we don't know. That's what the rules are trying to address, and we don't know what these processes are going to be, but there may be ways to move some of the processes along quicker, leaving the big issues, the big drainages for other processes.
Is that a situation where you could hire like a private law firm to bring in a team of lawyers to quickly act as those referees? Like you said, I mean, there's just gonna be a huge volume of these cases that are frankly gonna be pretty straightforward, right? And then there's gonna be sort of the bigger, thornier questions, but is that something where, yeah, like we could, the courts could put an RFP out and bring in a firm that knows a lot about
Probably not
this?
going to be a firm.
Okay,
It's probably going to be hiring 3 or 4 lawyers or geotechnical people and give them some training to be a referee, a water master, if you will, to make these kind of decisions.
Why can't they bring, it? I just think, when you think of like a scope of work, you got a year, get this
You
done,
could do a law firm. I think it's more, what I'm just saying is more likely to happen is they may put an RFP for interested parties. And so
Mhm.
individual lawyers
Okay,
may put their names in.
okay.
The other thing is the folks nationwide, because you're looking outside of this area, that are engaged in water have really lucrative practices. And they're not gonna wanna walk away from that. And they're doing good work for their clients.
Yeah.
In all kinds of other areas, so.
A lot of conflict over water these days.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, is
Not
that,
even giving John.
You had a question. Yeah.
did you have something?
I have a question, I don't know the update. So I had, at the Water Resources Advisory Committee, I identified, follow-up, which was not directly related to the PUD, but one that I felt responsible because I was an elected in Whatcom County to raise. At the committee, last committee meeting, they raised that they are maintaining a list of community leaders that they want to rely on to help get the word out. I said, well, I'd like to find out what your list is. I met with Robin McPherson and their staff person, another staff person. And they said they would have a list to me by the end of the week. I haven't received that. I did receive an email early this week that they're working on sending me something. As soon as I get something, I'll send it to staff and John and then I want us to be able to input on that. And I repeat again, my concern that I raised is that it's not specific to the PUD. It's specific to the adjudication, which indirectly affects the PUD. And that concern is that the people that they're talking to may not be a good group of people to inform the people who are most likely to fall through the cracks in terms of being notified and informed. And the people that will fall through the cracks soon enough informed, they have community leaders, and for example, I'm not worried about the WIDs. The active members of the WIDs are on top of this. Obviously, anybody who's covered by a municipal water program is covered. But there's lots of people, there's 30,000 litigants in Whatcom County. There's lots of people that fall outside of any of them who may just not be made aware and provided enough notice or information. And I'm not worried about covering ecology's legal notification thing. It's really about bringing the community up to speed and having enough of a awareness so that people have the opportunity to prepare. So
I'd be interested.
I assume we would be, yeah. So, but I have no follow-up yet from you. That's my.
Thank you. Moving on to geothermal. That'd be you first.
It'd be me and Andrew.
Okay.
We had a meeting with the Nooksack and Andrew, I don't know if you want to cover that. Just what all happened. Andrew and I went up the hill and met with Tree Baco and a number of the other staff members of the Nooksack and talked about putting a study together.
Great.
Yeah, it was a really great collaborative effort, meeting them where they are in their conference room there. And Chris did a great overview of what we're trying to do, kind of geothermal 101 again, kind of next steps, what we can think, what we should be thinking through in terms of producing an RFP and what the structure of an RFP would look like to get a pre-feasibility study going. Talked about timelines, making sure we're really moving forward swiftly through this process to be sure that we're prepared and ready for those bigger dollars later for the actual feasibility study. They also made note that if there was extra funds available, they would look at maybe or consider funding a portion of our staff time that's been dedicated to this as well. So you can see the collaboration really starting to come together on this. So, and again, Chris just did a great overview. I don't think he's going to say it, but he just did a great overview of whiteboards and, detailed charts and, lots of questions being asked. So I learned a lot. I know they learned a lot. And it was really good. So I think I'm probably missing something, Chris, but I'll kick it back to you.
No, my sense was that they didn't have any idea what a pre-feasibility study was all about. It had not, I mean, it's something you have to think about. I didn't get it day one. And when I first saw that, I was like, what a ridiculous bureaucratic exercise. But the reality is, before you go out and spend $5 million drilling your first slim well, you got to know kind of what you're looking for. So that when you get the data back, you can characterize it and say, okay, we've got an economic project or we don't.
Yeah.
And that you've really got to think that through. And that's what the pre-feasibility study does. And I think by the time we left, the light bulbs had all clicked on. Everybody kind of got it. And it was kind of like, oh my God. They were going to put together their standard RFP. This is the Nooksack for professional services and get it over to us. And then our offer was, we can go ahead and take first draft at populating it. Here's the elements that we think are needed, and then back to them, and then they can edit it. And I just suggested it'd be a lot easier for them to react to something than to create something, because we've already been thinking about this, and they agreed to that, and we haven't seen it yet. It was due last Friday, but they've been busy with water issues as well, so that's not too surprising.
So we will be conducting the pre-feasibility study in-house. We won't be,
No, we will be helping write the RFP in-house.
well, the RFP. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and then there'll be a third party.
Okay,
And
great.
that could be any of the universities, it could be the national labs, it could be private firms, it could be,
Okay.
we don't know who's going to be a successful bidder on it. I think everybody's excited about the national labs being involved. I've been in projects with the national labs. This is not a good match for them, but that's why you send out the RFP. They may have a group of folks there that are home run on this, and I don't know.
But they typically, when you want to get this specific, like a pre-feasibility study, with economic models for a specific location, is that what you're thinking, is that they're less in tune to that?
No, what the labs are in tune with is seismic soundings, and they're gonna wanna, what's gonna come out of this will be the study process around it to get the geology for 20 miles around. I mean, that's gonna be their orientation. I've worked with these guys before. They really want to do the study. They don't want to do the RFP for the pre-feasibility study. They want the study itself, and they can develop new technology around seismic sounding. I don't know, magma microphones, and who knows what they want to develop. And it's all good. It's just, that's not what we're trying to do here. One more thing on the geothermal. So we talked to our lobbyist, Hazel Grove, and he has some great suggestions for what we need to do now that we're off session. And one of them was to figure out a way to organize trips to the site so that we can get elected officials up there and have a look. So Andrew and I are going to be working the next couple of weeks on figuring that out and proposing some kind of a schedule. Trying to work this out. Some of it we definitely want to do in conjunction with the Nooksack. I get that. But there's some of it where it also, just, one or two of us and one or two represented people, and then everybody can ask the questions and not have to do it in front of a large group. We can actually stomp around and look and go,
Take a hike.
yeah,
up Baker Lake.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's the hot springs. Because the well casing for the Ultra Rock well should still be there. So we should be able to find the exact location of the original slim well. And show people, this is what it looks like 5 years after the drilling. And, at that point, we might be in a small grove of relatively young firs or something, I don't know. But actually, they should have gone up there to remediate last summer, so
Yes.
probably did some work up there.
For what it's worth, it struck me when I read that update, thinking about adjudication and then also the discussion just now from broadband. Scott's doing excellent work on this. Olympia. Is it time for the PUD to consider a federal lobbyist to address a variety of these issues that come across your plate that you may want to voice in DC or through with your federal elected officials? Just something to put on your table as you think about the budget for next year, because addressing these bonding issues from federal requirements to, working with the Department of Interior on the geothermal issues, on dealing with any funding for solutions in the adjudication area, there may be a time when you want some presence.
I have good news on that front.
Okay,
So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to join APPA,
okay, there you go.
which we did in January. They helped me find the right lobbyists and the right law firms in Washington DC, and it was a home run when I worked in Kentucky. So, and we were lobbying on a whole bunch of FERC issues and clean air issues, clean water. I mean, it was just a morass of issues, and APPA was enormously helpful.
Good.
So, you know, if we want to go there, we can do that. The only thing I will caution you is it will not be cheap. Now, if we can get in with others, you know, that have similar concerns, you spread the cost, you defray it. But if you just end up hiring a lobbyist directly, it's fairly pricey.
I just wanted to add that, I drafted a press release after the legislative session because a lot of people in the community are excited about geothermal and have questions about it. And I know that the Nooksack, we're doing a lot of outreach to other tribes in the area, including the Upper Skagit and the Soxhawtla. So, the feedback I got was, let's hold off because they wanted to have those face-to-face meetings before a press release went out, but I'll just make sure, I'll forward that to both
Okay.
of you, so you have it.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is worth getting some information out there into the community, and we already heard about from both the Herald and Cascadia Daily that they're interested in it. And we sort of said, oh, we don't have news back
Yeah,
in the
there's
fall,
not
but
a
I
project
think
yet, yeah.
this is news that there's, you know, $500,000 working on, you know, to pursue understanding the feasibility of it. So,
Now, the staff folks last week, they said, and they may not know, but they said that the outreach to the other tribes had not happened yet.
that's
And that was last
totally
week.
possible. I mean,
Well,
I
or
think
they might
that
not know
it,
because they're staff, they're not on tribal council.
right, yeah, and I mean, these sometimes those meetings take a while to
Mhm.
get and schedule and do. So, just wanted to make sure we're kind of all on the same page about that, but I think that that's an important part of the whole outreach strategy at some point. And maybe even inviting somebody like Ralph Schwartz, who's the local government reporter, to one of those site visits.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's what Scott was suggesting, is
Mhm,
people
okay.
like that, Sharon Shimei,
Mhm,
Representative Bramble,
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
and just have an opportunity for us to go up and say, you know, this is it.
Yeah,
And, you know, and then they can, and I know that there's folks who, like Representative, Senator
Like,
Canna,
Representative.
Canna. She's not interested in the fact that it won't disrupt the Baker's Hot Springs at all, that we're going to a lower level below that aquifer. She's upset that anybody's drilling or proposing to drill anywhere near that hot spring.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm, mhm,
But you got to drill on the volcano somewhere.
mhm, mhm. Senator Lovelett would also be an obvious
Yeah.
choice since she's sponsored the bill that got.
I don't have anything else on geothermal.
Okay.
No, I don't.
All right, let's go to new business and begin with a discussion and possible action of nomination of interim commissioner.
Yeah, I prepared a memo for you that came out, I can try to give a high level outline of the process and 2 alternative recommended actions. The way that the nuance of the statute that was adopted in 2023 for special purpose districts that applies to this district is that when the vacancy occurs, the remaining commissioners then are to nominate candidates for the position. So I said that carefully because when the vacancy occurs, it's not when it's announced. It's the effective date.
So May,
So
May
May
2nd.
1st. May 1st is the effective date of the designation.
okay.
And therefore, you then would nominate candidates. You then publish that and invite nominees for a minimum of 15 days from the publication goes. Then from that slate, that the public from that district are nominated and your nominees, you then consider that list of candidates. You can interview those candidates. Interviews would be an open session. You can evaluate those candidates in executive session, and then you select somebody to fill the vacant term until the next general election when a commissioner is reelected, which is this November. So that's the interim commissioner position. So my recommendation to you is I have two schedules. One, you just follow the normal course of your meetings. Another one is you hold a special meeting on May 2nd to identify nominate candidate or candidates. You could have 5 if the commission nominates and put out in the public notice, then the public comment, and they come back to you, and then you make that selection after the expiration of that 15-day period. I get questions about why this process seems kind of convoluted, that we are cherry picking who the commission wants. And I just want to say, this isn't how you draft a statute if you're doing it anew. But if contextually, historically, the commission would select without a notice requirement who would fill a vacant position. So I am presuming that there was some pushback on some special purpose district, be it or cemetery district or an irrigation district or who knows what throughout the state. Was pushback that the public didn't get notice. The commission shouldn't be selecting, and the compromise was, well, okay, the commissioners are still going to pick who the interim replacement is, but we'll have a public notice and an opportunity for the public to nominate people, and then the commission will pick whoever they want. So that's the process we're left with.
Okay.
Any questions about the process? So I put it here, and I said potential action, which I doubt you would take, and I'm not recommending you take, but I didn't know what the commission said. But so you can discuss potential candidates in executive session today. I would recommend you not nominate anybody.
Well, it wouldn't be appropriate.
It wouldn't be, it would be premature under strict reading of the statute.
Okay.
That we come back, if you want an accelerated time frame, you have a special meeting on May 2nd or the 3rd or shortly after the 1st. Then Chris and I would work to get the publication out after the 15 days would run. We'd have another meeting or special meeting, however that lined up, where you could then pick who would fill that spot from the slate of nominated candidates. And if you wanted to interview, we'd have to arrange this. I would say my recommendation is that if you know of somebody who is interested, or someone in the public after this notice goes out is interested, they send their letter of interest to Chris with the maybe a curriculum vitae or resume or whatever they want to provide as supporting materials. We're not going to prescribe that. I wouldn't recommend. Let that letter of interest and send to Chris. It's a public record, and then Chris can maintain the list of who's presented to you. But the process first is for you to consider nominating folks, and we would do that on the 2nd or 3rd if you took the accelerated schedule.
I would like the accelerated schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the meeting itself would only be nomination.
We
right?
could do it by
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah, we should do it by.
You can do it by Zoom, and again, it says candidate or candidates, so
Yeah.
you could have 3 each.
We could
just
yeah, sure, and then it starts
Or
at
one.
15
or
days.
one,
Yeah.
or one.
Right. Okay, so let's.
Okay.
That
Who will
motion.
handle that?
We just a motion to adopt an accelerated schedule
Yes.
or as close thereto
Yes.
as possible. And create
I'll make a
that.
motion to adopt an accelerated schedule, starting with a special meeting on May 2nd by Zoom.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And my understanding that is as close to the schedule as I laid out as possible.
Yes,
Good.
right, yeah,
Okay,
okay,
then, if you want to have a discussion about possible candidates now, you can, or qualifications you're interested, you could, you don't have to. And then we set some time aside in executive session if there are individual candidates you want to evaluate or discuss, you can. The executive session is not the time to discuss general criteria. I think.
So, let's talk briefly about criteria a little bit for the public's benefit. for me, is that what's?
Go ahead. go
Okay, so, for me, the most important thing is that the person is able to hit the ground running. Of course, they have to be in Commissioner Grant's district.
Yes.
To comply with all the boundaries there. But it's important to find someone who will, be able to hit the ground running. Who has competency and knowledge of what the PUD is doing. And then also is willing to work real hard, real quick, to climb the learning curve. And I'll want the support of of you, John, and you, Chris. I mean, full support, in helping that person climb the learning curve very. So I want to summarize, that's what's important for me.
Yeah, that's important to me as well. We will have a chance to interview these people.
If you so choose, once we have after the 15 days, we can, that might affect what day we have a special meeting, when they're available or not, and when you're available. So there may be some coordination of the interviews, and then you decide that day or another day. But yes, if you want to interview these,
Yeah,
candidates, you can.
it's really important. If you don't want to conduct interviews, if you just want to appoint, you can. The process is yours.
Oh, I would prefer to conduct. meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my personal criteria, other than being in, Christine's district. I want to make sure their values align with mine, so that's not really a criteria that I'm gonna put down and. So, yeah, I would like.
And so everyone's aware, the interviews are in public, which your evaluation can be in executive session.
Okay. That's it. We will move on to reassign district representatives to agencies. I have an opinion about this.
I do too, yeah.
We have alternates. Makes sense to me that the alternates just get assigned.
Yeah,
to whatever.
I wrote the following.
And,
I think hopefully captures your.
okay,
Okay, wherever Commissioner Grant is listed as primary, the alternate will become the. Wherever Commissioner Grant is listed as primary, the alternate will become the primary. And the other commissioner will become the alternate.
yeah, sensical.
Wherever Commissioner Grant is the alternate, then the other commissioner will become the alternate.
Yes.
And then in November, you guys can figure.
We can
Or
figure-
in June.
Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And Chris, just as the things to do, I thought about it laying in bed last night, because we are going to, after you make this appointment. The elected official is going to have to do their OPMA and training and that type of thing within 90 days. So it's one of our list of things.
Yeah, and then we'll turn around and
Not-
do it again in November,
I
yeah.
want 90s, yeah,
Yeah.
not 90 days, yeah, right, so, I just wanted to check in on that, though. Commissioner Grant is, with your, assignments, is there anything that's coming up that we should be aware of that, in the near future?
I'm doing Energy Northwest tomorrow, and that means there won't be another meeting for Energy Northwest
Okay.
until late July. So there's quite a bit of wiggle room there.
Okay, great,
Since one of the last things I'll do is that Energy Northwest Board of Directors meeting.
thank you.
I'm the primary on every WAPUDA committee except for energy. Oh, and managers, obviously. That's. Okay, since we have that cleared up, let's move to the operations report.
Energy and tele,
Oh, telecom, that's right. But we don't really have anything.
not for a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a good point. Do we want to talk about the telecom work session?
We did, didn't we?
We did.
Well, so now we're looking at interviews, if you look at the schedule.
16.
May 21st would be the meeting to have the review for the temporary commissioner. So I would suggest either we go ahead and have the telecom meeting as scheduled, or we defer it until after the 21st.
Yes, that's what I would prefer to do.
Defer it.
Yeah, defer it until
Okay.
after the 21st. It would be lovely to have a new commissioner on board with us.
Right. I agree.
So the 21st, just,
Squishy, yeah.
yeah, because we need the 15 days.
Mhm.
15 days from the third. If we run it on the third, if we're able to get it out that quick, and run for a minimum of 15 days, the 18th is Saturday, we run that over to the Monday to be the 15th day, so we put that on the 21st. Are you gonna interview all on the 21st? If they're not available, you go the 22nd, 23rd, and then it's your action day.
Oh,
See-
sure.
You know, that same day as the interviews.
Yeah,
I'm just
when
saying,
did you?
Yeah, I'm very likely just to propose that we move the telecom work session to the first week in June,
Yeah,
and then we're probably okay.
we're probably okay, yeah.
And then we'll have 2 work sessions in June, one on telecom, one on the markets. So we'll actually have 4 meetings in June. 2 work sessions and 2 regular
Hi,
meetings.
kill me, all this work.
Was your idea.
I know.
So in the first
It's hard to
week,
complain.
Okay,
sorry about that.
all right, operations report. Welcome, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. John. I'll make this relatively short, but we're at that time of year in operations where weather isn't impacting or climate isn't impacting our operations. And so we're basically in the mode of ramping up annual maintenance activities. We're in the planning stage to implement capital projects this summer. And then also we're finishing up some of the capital projects that have been underway, such as the substation project. So I expect in future meetings, we'll have more to report in terms as we wrap things up. We'll have some slideshows on the various activities operations is involved in. The one thing I wanted to touch on just briefly, and you've seen a lot of this information in the news, and particularly if you're reading Clearing Up, it's water supply, its impact on hydro operations, and then I talk about locally what we're seeing. But it's shaping up to be a different year than last year. If you remember last year, we had a late snow, and so the snowpack got supplemented in the spring, and then a cool spring, and then we went into summer, so then we got melt. So the river flows showed up at the right time. That's not the case this year. You know, what we're seeing regionally is that the river forecast for the Columbia River Basin at the Bonneville Dam is in the low 70% of normal range and not expected to increase at this point. So already we're seeing adjustments to hydro operations on the Columbia River and Snake River. One of the major changes this year is at Grand Coulee Dam, where they've actually started supplementing by drafting down the Lake Roosevelt Reservoir, supplementing flows in the Columbia for Fish Passage. They're only able to do this because for a variety of reasons, the reservoir level in Lake Roosevelt was up at actually record levels for this time of year. So that gave some flexibility there. But you're seeing, as the coordinated Columbia River Hydro System does, they're already adjusting operations based on the forecasts. Statewide, similar situation. We now have a statewide drought declaration. Snowpack in the state Cascades, 68% of normal. Water supply forecast to be less than 75%, which automatically triggered a statewide drought notification. So we're watching that. At the local level and the impact on the PUD, I'd say first and foremost for our customers, there's not going to be any impact on our ability to supply water this summer for our customers. But looking at the snowpack and where the river's at now and forecast to be, the biggest impact in the county is going to be on groundwater. I think we'll see a further deterioration in groundwater water levels going forward, which for the PUD is going to really impact us. I think we'll see a lot more requests for irrigation water this summer and probably a few more requests for hard connection to our industrial water system for those people that are relying on wells and their well levels dropped significantly or has gone dry, and they want to take our water and then convert it to potable water. I'm sure we'll see a lot more going on in that area. The other thing we'll see is at our water intake plants, primarily plant one, maybe some mechanical, physical impact of low water flows in terms of, the water channel changing in the vicinity of the plant one intake. And perhaps we'll see more sedimentation build up because of those low flows. That suspended sediment settles out and may impact our screens. So we'll have to be vigilant there to make sure we keep things cleaned out. If you remember, we had a project last year that allows us to basically pump materials out of the intake wells. As that sediment builds up, we can pump it out. And so we're better equipped this year to handle that. The only other thing I'll mention is just I looked today at the river data, looked at the Ferndale, the USGS Ferndale gauge station, and the flows they're adequate. It was 2,120 cubic feet a second, which is historically in the last 57-year record, less than 25%. It's in the less than 25% tile range, which meaning it is low, but it's still adequate. We're not nearing record low levels at this point at all. The one thing that caught my attention was river temperature. We're today, for this date, already tying the record high temperature. That high temperature was set in 2018, excuse me. And that temperature was 50 degrees. We're at just about 51 degrees today. And that's interesting. I mean, it's just one point in time measurement, but it tells me, number one, either the snow melt has not started in earnest or it's over. We should see colder temperatures than that. And we're definitely not digging into the glacial till yet. But so we're kind of in that in-between stage, and it's not clear what's going to happen, but that 50 degrees is an interesting number. And with that, I'll see if there's any questions.
Questions?
And so let's talk about temperatures first. So I want to make sure I understood what you said. So we're at 51 today, which is a high for this time of year.
Yeah, for
It's a
this
record
date.
for this time of year,
Yes.
for this date. And what is the temperature that really is a concern temperature for fish?
It's not until you get up in the 62, 65 degree range, over in the 60s. So we're nowhere near there. It's just interesting that
Yeah, the
this
fish
early
kills started at
temperature is high.
68 or 69 degrees.
So next, I'd like to understand what do we know about what's happening in the local basin? I spent a lot of time off the Skagit River, not last weekend, but the weekend before. And it looked like reservoirs are exceptionally low off the Skagit River. And obviously when they make these statewide statements, they give you some statewide averages. What do we know about basins near to us as far as where they are in terms of levels of snowpack and that kind of thing? So it seemed to me that the Skagit Basin looks really low.
Well, the way they operate the river is they want to have room to catch the runoff. So typically, starting in late winter, early spring, they do release from these reservoirs to build headroom so that you can catch the runoff and not have a flood.
That's the question I had. Could it be part of the hydro operations?
Yes. Now, yeah, I'm just speculating based on my 3 years working for Seattle. That's how they did it every year.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that's what you're seeing, but I also haven't pinged them. They may say, oh yeah, we drew them down, but you know, given that, we're still at record lows. They may tell us something like that if we ask, or they may not. I suspect it's just ordinary river operations.
And we also have, our chemicals usage is low right now, meaning the river is also quite clear.
The river is very clear. I was like, this morning it was 4 NTUs, so very, very clear river, which is also an indication we're not getting any of that
Glacial
glacial material yet in the river. The other thing interesting, and Chris and I have talked about this, but we'll have a rain event, river levels will come up, and then they immediately go right back down. I mean, there's nothing feeding the headwaters to
Nothing
increase
persistent
flow
at all.
right now.
So we need July to be a steady, slow rain
Yes,
month.
yeah.
That would be good. Hope is not a good strategy.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yes.
Can I come back before we go to commissioners' reports? to
Yes.
The nominations, and can we pick a time for the meeting on May 2nd? I ask because I'm looking at I have an immovable things in the morning. One, I'm doing a water law presentation to Rotary in the morning, and I have a matter at 10, I can't move, but I'm available 11 o'clock, 11:30 on that day.
You guys wanted to do a virtual only for
Yes.
that one?
Yeah, so for me, it has to be, yeah, after 11:30.
So is it noon or 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock?
Yep,
1 o'clock or
1 o'clock is.
1 o'clock, okay.
Thank you.
And then how much time should we book for that? Chair, an hour or half an hour?
I'd put an hour just,
Yeah.
we're gonna put a notice out.
Sure.
It's 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and if you end up being short, that's fine.
We can adjourn. early.
We can adjourn or
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where you guys come together and you have a name to put in nomination and you direct me to begin the advertising and that's it. That's the full business of the meeting.
Great.
It could be a 2-minute meeting.
it could be 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. So 1 o'clock. And we'll work with like the
Yep.
Okay, anybody just bubbling to share a commissioner's report? Okay. It's always you.
First, this is an update, regarding, water banking, Whatcom County is excluded. But usually I save my crazy ideas to discuss them in private with Chris, so that they're vetted before I talk to the public, but, I'm just gonna throw this one out there, and that's the caution of the wind. This crazy idea is, what if Whatcom PUD partnered with Skagit PUD or some other Skagit entity to pursue water banking funding? They've got $10 million or some other Whatcom entity. It doesn't have to be us. It could be the Ag Water Board could partner with Skagit PUD or some other entity as the primary applicant. And we could look at water banking solutions that apply to both counties. So it's an idea, and I just want you to maybe torpedo it in public or in private, however you feel fit.
Well, I mean, the key usually is where are the water rights domiciled? Where do they originate?
Mhm.
And if the legislation, essentially blocks any water rights that originate in Whatcom County from participating in a bank, we're kind of done. If it doesn't, then, that it might be something to look at. I agree with you that it would be probably somebody, the Ag Water Board or somebody like that, that would be, that'd be where you get the most bang for the buck.
Sir, talk to Bill Clark about this.
You could.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm gonna talk to Bill Clark about it. Okay, so I'll make a note there.
And general, there are exceptions, but one of the things when we look at interlocal agreements between agencies is whether you're doing something that you don't have the authority to do, and so the interlocals perceived to be a worker. So we would look at how we might recharacterize this from being a water bank focus that we're prohibited to engage in.
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But you do have the authority for watershed management partnerships.
Okay.
So you might approach it in a different format.
for sure. And that's my thinking, because why I'm bringing this up, because water banking is begging some really important questions regarding municipal water law, maybe, but more importantly, foster related issues. And so I think that, it's in our interest as an organization to see these projects go forward and for this funding to be utilized to explore, the barriers to water banking. So it's really in our interest for this kind of thing to be happening. And it's silly that when they wrote the law that they excluded us. I know their reasons, but, they're arcane now from my perspective now. And, I think it's one explore. As far as my per diems, of course, it's all the routine stuff. I want to mention though that I would like to attend a meeting coming up this next Monday. That's not on my regular meetings. And the topic of that meeting is the effect of the energy transition on water resources. And it's a water science and technology board meeting. It's a spring meeting. It's I can attend virtually, and it's from all morning from 8 to 1 p.m. And I'm really curious about what's happening with clean energy and its impacts on water resources.
Like in terms of how, basically, how electrifying everything is impacting water resources?
Well, I mean,
or-
for us, what's also more relevant is hydrogen.
Mm.
That'll be one of the topics that gets discussed. So.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious about opportunities. What are people doing with clean energy to actually help solve water? Like that, like I want to return to something that I believe really strongly in is things that increase our community's resilience. And resilience is increased when we both improve the cleanness of our energy and reduce the stress on natural systems at the same time. Those are home run type of projects.
So commissioners, do you agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
share your information.
I will.
Yeah, you can
And
write
of
it
course,
down.
I have the meeting with the mayor of Bellingham. I'm planning to discuss on the 30th. The one thing we had discussed in previous commission meetings that I was planning to talk about was the need for a improved assessment of the basin.
We'll discuss that. We can touch that in executive session.
Okay, cool. And I don't know if the commission thinks there are other things that I should bring up in that meeting, other topics.
I had a brief conversation with her about geothermal, and she seems really excited about it, especially the engineering side of her. So I would mention that we might be doing some of these site visits, and if she's interested to have maybe Chris connect with, I think Broxana, is she still coordinating the calendar for the mayor? But if you can just mention that to her, I think that she would be really open and excited about joining that site visit. And I know that City of Bellingham continues to try to figure out what to do on renewable energy, and they interviewed me a little while ago and I mentioned the geothermal project, but it's a little hard to know what's going on exactly, so. That'd be great.
Okay.
Is that it for you?
I believe that's it for me. Oh, actually, there's one more thing. I did not attend the public food meetings that I think I let the commission know that, but I want to make sure you know, I was planning to attend last week's food meetings. But I was not able to attend because I had several conversations and meetings scheduled in person relating to the commissioner replacement. I want to have take a per diem for the purpose of following up with the committee leads Nicholas, Stephanie, and so on. Particularly on telecom and energy. To, to, maintain some continuity, because there's not another Wakuda meeting for some time. And I would have been checking in with them. if
So
I'm-
you will be checking in with them going forward, you mean? You're gonna have
No, it's
meetings with
just,
each
just
of them?
because I missed
Oh,
the annual conference, I didn't have the opportunity to check in with them on those issues, so I'd like to take a per diem on one day. I may not do it in one day, but basically take a per diem to have all those conversations with telecom and energy in particular committee groups. And actually with telecom, I quite likely I'll talk to Angela as well, right, from Kitsap. And on energy, I might talk to others, because I think that's as well, but I just wanted to be able to catch up a little bit. Particularly since it's gonna be a while since we have
Mhm.
a Florida meetings, so.
Yeah, I'm doing the Board of Directors meeting for Energy Northwest tomorrow, and so expect to sort of get a full update on their progress with the proposed SMR project. And then the big thing that's going on tomorrow also is that there will be a vote on the outside director role on the executive board. So Tim Sheldon's term is up and he is running again. And then there's another woman that her name is Karen Lang. And so I've reviewed the materials that they both sent, and they'll both be giving presentations tomorrow. So I will vote for the candidate who I believe will represent Whatcom County PUD ratepayers and the goals of our strategic plan most closely.
great.
Yeah, I'll send an email to Chris with like a little overview of the meeting and who I voted for and why.
And I'll make sure it gets out.
Is there any input you need from us on that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I mean, very different candidates. As you know, Tim Sheldon's been around forever and Karen has a kind of corporate law and business background. And been on some pretty serious national boards and things like that. So it'll be interesting seeing the contrast between the two of them presenting tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else for your last commissioner report?
Well, we are gonna have this additional board retreat. So
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like
true,
we'll have
yeah.
another time
Another shot at it.
to get together, but I did actually think of something that I wanted to share with all of you. I took a picture of it. It's this thing that I wrote down from a leadership book that I read a year ago or something. And I think hopefully we're all growing all the time, but the quote that I had was, "May leadership be for you a true adventure of growth." So that's what I'm gonna leave you with for my commission report today.
I have one comment. I know you didn't ask on the Energy Northwest decision,
Oh, yeah,
but I'd like to provide some.
okay,
It's not about people.
okay.
It's about what matters to me. So having been at Energy Northwest, and having been exposed to numerous conversations with Bonneville, I believe we need more nimbleness in both Bonneville and Energy Northwest, but we're not talking about Bonneville. But because Bonneville is an incredibly hard, a federal agency, which doesn't move easily at all. Yeah. It's, and going to Energy Northwest meeting, I never thought that this was a nimble organization. It doesn't feel like a nimble organization. Remember, I'm a startup entrepreneur. So like, for me, nimble means like in the morning you're doing this and then by 2 p.m. you're doing something completely different. And it's signed off. and funded, and you're doing it. Oh, yeah. So I understand that that's not realistic for a public agency, and I don't want that to be what we do, but for me, an attribute that matters for me is, changes at Energy Northwest that make it more nimble, more responsive to the changing environment that we're dealing with. And most importantly, that matters is new resources. And not any particular new resources, just openness and responsiveness to new resources. And I don't know how to evaluate these candidates at all. That will be your job, but I want to share something that really matters to me.
Thanks. Okay. I don't have any upcoming per diem requests that aren't already on our list. I do want to say, because WIRA 1 continues to be a disappointment. Yeah, they canceled again. So this will be the second time that they've canceled, and they're only every other month. So that means we will have another one in June. So it's been 6 months since it'll be 6 months since we've had a meeting. And I just want to express my disappointment in that. And, there has to be some sort of bylaws that are drafted for a board, right? That like, it feels like they've gone rogue. Like there's not even an update provided to the board, just an FYI, we're canceling yet again. So I don't want my name attached to something where I have absolutely zero input. I have no idea the work that's being done. They're not sharing anything. I was on there last year and I went to 2 meetings. It's
I would say
absurd, in a word. So I don't even know where to begin. Who do we contact? Geneva Consulting. I don't even know who to contact
That's
to
bad.
tell them that I'm angry.
So, number one, you shared that with me about 2 months ago. I shared that with them.
Uh-huh.
And the issue that they're grappling with is where there really is no update, and there isn't. They don't want to get all of the elected people together, the county executive and mayors and everybody else. And historically, when they don't have an update, they cancel the meeting.
Yeah.
So, I guess other than publishing, we don't have an update.
That's not good enough for me. I think that if there's no update, they need to explain why there is no update and why the meeting's being canceled. I mean, I've sat on numerous boards over the years as both an executive and a board member, and have had to answer to people when the work's not getting done. That's also a problem. So I want to know why. I want to know why these are being canceled, why there's no report. So
Can Becky come in and present and give an update on what's going on?
Sure.
Okay.
I think, on the management team, we see all of this.
yeah.
And a lot of it right now is FEMA. So one of the groups of work that the WIRA 1 is overseeing is a bunch of habitat restoration
Mhm.
work. FEMA put in, I forget to call it CHOMPS or something, chore. It's a whole new process. And it has resulted in 24 months of delay in a FEMA grant that was already given. And, there's like it was supposed to be a $700,000. Now it's going to be over $1 million because of the delays built in. So this is one of those things that was supposed to be built in 2022.
Mhm.
We're looking at hopefully breaking ground sometime next month. And that depends on FEMA granting it. So that's one project. And they're stacked like that. And that's kind of what's going on.
So, may I speak to you? I know you're not done.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just want to express how much I support what you're saying. And Commissioner Grant's suggestion as well. We may not need Becky. I may be wrong, but I feel like Rebecca is very plugged in
Mhm.
to everything that Becky has to offer. In the prior commission that we've had, that I've been a part of, we've seen a lot more of Rebecca. In the commission meeting. And so I guess that this is input that I would like to have more bits and bytes input from what's happening at the watershed management team based on Commissioner Arnett, our chair is the fact that I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I was on the watershed management board years. I 100% echo that the need for it to be more electeds driven than it is. I'm not saying it should be solely electeds driven. I'm saying, but there should be a lot more input provided by the electeds. These people are elected to represent the community, and staff should not be running the show exclusively. That's a mistake. And I go as far as said, I'd be fine to co-author a
If you
letter.
go back and look, I believe that the management board, that the WIRA elected board directed the management team to stop calling meetings when there was nothing on the agenda. So there's
I
a,
wasn't part of that.
so there's a, we did just what you said.
No, I mean, I've been a commissioner now for almost 6 years, and I have never participated in any conversation like that in the last 6 years.
Steve and others have told me of those conversations that have happened. And so the reluctance has been to call meetings with no agenda, where there isn't anything that they can report in terms of progress.
That is a failure of the process. Right there. There's stuff happening in this community around water and water issues. And to not have an agenda is a failure of the process. That's not what success looks like.
Well, maybe this isn't the space to carry on the conversation. You and I can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, maybe I can reach out to other people as well. Cause even if it's a memo, even if it's just an update, it was like, we won't see you for 6 months. Here's what's happening. But I didn't know what was going on with FEMA. I mean, that's a great FYI. Yeah, sure. Okay, so we'll continue this conversation on our
Okay.
weekly call. So that's it for me. Public comments. Now's your chance. No, it's fine.
Thank you. Todd Legacy here as a private citizen. And this has been something that's been kind of brewing in my head for a while. The city of Bellingham got about $1.5 million from the Department of Commerce to install 90 charging stations throughout the city. And they're also putting in some money from the Transportation Benefit District as well. I think they're bringing it up to about $4 million for 90 charging stations. And I think some of that money from the state comes from EV users like myself that pay an additional $75 registration fee every year to increase electric vehicle charging. But at least in the city of Bellingham, what it appears is that they're using a third-party for-profit agency to administer those charging stations, ChargePoint. And ChargePoint charges, at least in the city where I've looked at, they're charging 25 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's about over double, almost 150% of about what our regular electricity rates are, about 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So you have a for-profit agency utilizing state grant money to make a profit that is not incentivizing electric vehicle adoption. And so, in the idea of new resources that you were just talking about, why can't the PUD potentially become an administrator and charge 15 cents per kilowatt hour and still make a little bit of profit to develop an additional revenue stream, but actually create a little more incentive? So anyhow, that was just something that I pitched it at the mayor before she was elected to point out that it isn't actually incentivizing EV adoption by charging 150% of the rate. But now looking at the PUD, I'm wondering if that's an opportunity for the PUD to expand its service and utilizing state grant money to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a public comment? Anyone online? It doesn't look like it. Okay, we are going to, do we need a 5-minute break? Anyone? No? Okay. So we are going to recess, come back to executive session to discuss candidates seeking appointment.
I'm gonna assume the whole executive session is gonna be 20 minutes, so if we're taking a 5-minute break, it will be done at 10:15. Well, I can't, no,
Yeah.
10:30.
10:30. Okay,
So we're taking a 5-minute break, then.
yeah, 5-minute break.
Okay.
Break. Do the things.
I'm not available Friday for the workshop you're continuing. I didn't want to.
No, I didn't. Flex.
I had that was president of the city club and they wanted to speak to you. Help organize it. Way back. So, let it die.
Yeah, no.
If you wanted to put the money towards a charity, go do this, go towards a speaker on our end, but I don't need another.
We're back in regular session.
Are we?
Okay, great.
It
It's not
says
quite done.
currently an executive session.
It's recording up above.
It always says that.
Oh,
Always says recordings, they can't take that off.
It freezes up for some reason
From
on that
that
TV,
perspective,
but we can
it's
hear
like-
you.
might just be waiting to exactly 10:30.
Sorry, the TV always freezes up for some reason. I thought it was, someone stole it, but nothing was happening, but all of a sudden. Yeah.
Oh, I have my
All
lot stolen.
this stuff that we don't own is listed under her Facebook. page.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Seen that before. Happen to people.
I know I'm doing this happening.
Gasoline cards, whatever.
Well, it's probably not her cards, it's just the Facebook account, now it goes all the brand.
They got hijacked. Guys.
Otherwise, shut that down.
You'll figure it out.
I'm-
Yeah.
It's Melons.
How's the bike
Awesome.
discussion?
Oh, well, my kid doesn't want to bike with me.
Yeah,
He loves his
You're gonna get a
bike.
tricycle?
Yeah.
You gotta make it a really cool tricycle.
Yeah, well,
Like
that Ad Motor City Trike, they are really cool.
It's gotta, and you gotta be fast. with it.
Yeah, he doesn't. want
There we
bikes.
go.
He rides bikes.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm the only one on mine.
So are we in? Okay, it is now 10:30 and we are adjourning this meeting.
There was no action.
Oh, no action taken during executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.
The picture stick.